click on record, and it's live now. All right. So now we're going to, here, services. You can find Lambda here. You can make it a favorite, right? Or you can type Lambda here, right? Lambda, and it will show it to you, right? Lambda is one of um, the most important services too. Is widely used by many companies. In fact, the College Board, where I worked at, they use Lambda, right? Lambda everywhere, okay? So when you see Lambda, it says run code without thinking about servers. It's serverless, right? So I don't have any function right now. I don't have any function. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and create a function, right? So you click on create function, and we're going to create a function from scratch, okay? We're not gonna use a blueprint or container images, a browse serverless app repository, any of that. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a name. So let's say my first Lambda function, right? So right now, we're gonna choose the runtime. The runtime is basically the languages that it supports, right? Supports .NET, Go, Java, Node.js, Python, Ruby, .NET Core, Java 8, Node.js, Python, Ruby. So we're gonna select Python 3.8. See that it doesn't have 3.9, it's not used yet. So we're gonna use Python 3.8, right? Now the permissions, we're not going to use an existing role. We're gonna let Lambda create one for us, right? So this is gonna create a new role with basic Lambda permissions. So what is a role? A role is what allows services to interact with each other, right? So if Lambda wants to stop an EC2 instances, Lambda needs a role that allows Lambda to do that. Otherwise, it would not be able to do it. So that's one of the functions of roles. It lets services interact with each other, right? It needs a role to do basic Lambda permissions, right? You always have to have a role with the Lambda permission, with the Lambda function. Doesn't matter what choice you are selecting here, you need a role. In this case, we're just going to print hello from Lambda, so we don't need anything special. But when we decide to create a Lambda function to stop an instance or start an instance, we will need a special role that we have to create, okay? So for now, let's use create a new role with basic Lambda functions. We don't have to do anything in the advanced settings. We're not gonna put the Lambda function in any VPC or anything, so we're gonna go ahead and create the function. That's it. It's just the name, the runtime, and the role. That's it, right? So now we go ahead and create the function, and the function will be created for me with some sample code, because this is a sample Lambda function, okay? So now my first Lambda function has been created, okay? So this is the Lambda function, and this is the code right here. And I can see it's in Python, it imported JSON, and it says return this guy here, right? Very good. So we can add more information here. Probably we can say maybe my name. Remember, this is Python. My name. I can say maybe trainer, right? And maybe we can say here inside the return name. And then here we can say my name, right? All right. So a very simple thing.
All right, I'm lost. Like why is my code source blank then? I don't.
The code. Is that what you mean?
The code source, the
Yeah,
terminal.
When you scroll down, it says core source, click on this and it will show the code. Click on this file.
I did.
Yeah. So you see this?
No.
Double click on it.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, good. So now that we have went ahead and done this, what we have to do is deploy the Lambda function. So it says here, changes not deployed. So we have to deploy change because we added this variable here. So we deploy it, and now it says change is deployed. Okay, so in other words, the Lambda function has been updated. Okay, so let us explore the Lambda function a little bit more. So the package size is 289 bytes. The runtime is 3.8, as you can see here. The handler.
I'm sorry, before you get going, my deploy wouldn't activate. I saw that you highlighted it, but my deploy wouldn't activate.
Activate.
Yeah, I mean, so you want to do the change deployed, or that button right you get the tab on?
You click deploy, and it will show this.
Okay, then click that one.
Okay, do you see changes deployed?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we also have the handler. The handler is always the function, and by default is called handler. Okay, Lambda handler. There has to be a handler to be able to run the function. If you create a function without a handler, I mean, it doesn't work. You cannot just come here and write any code you want. You have to create a function because this is a Lambda function, right? So it says here, this is the encryption part, all this. Now, there's several tabs here. You can click test, and you can test this guy. We're gonna do that. We're gonna click the monitor part when you can monitor your your Lambda function, right? Some metrics here, right? Like invocation. How many invocations has the Lambda function had? The duration of the invocation, the error counts, as success rate, the throttles, the async delivery failures, the iterator age, concurrent executions. So metrics that are sent to CloudWatch every minute if it is enhanced monitoring, every 5 minutes if it is basic monitoring. We have the logs here. That's why we're having the logs. You can see the log in CloudWatch as well. Traces, no traces. We don't need to know about this. It's just for you guys to explore this a little bit. So we have configuration here, and the configuration we have that this has a memory of 128 megabytes, right? And the biggest you can go is 10,240 megabytes. That's the bigger you can go, right? Now the execution time, the biggest we can go is what's the maximum execution time of a Lambda function?
15 minutes.
Which one?
15
minutes.
Good, 15.
15.
So if I put here 6, you see, maximum timeout is 15 minutes. So that's the longest I can go, right? This is the longest I can go, no more than that, okay? My Lambda function here by default has a 3-second execution time. And that's more than enough because I'm basically running just a simple text. I'm running, I'm returning this, my name, status code, and hello from Lambda. That's it, right? This is aliases. This is for developing. You don't have to worry about this, and versions as well. If you create a new version of the Lambda function, okay? So now we're gonna test it. So there are 2 ways to test this. You can click here, what it says test, or simply click here, what it says test. We're gonna click here. So now when you click test, you have to create a test event. And by simply typing my test event. That's all we have to do. This is just to test the Lambda function to see if it works, right? So it's good to test your Lambda function when you create it before it's invoked by another service, right? So now that we have created this test event, we have given it a name. So we have to do is create, and that's it. Now we're ready to test it, right? And of course, it's going to show us an output. So let's go and click on test, and let's see what happens. You see, name trainer, status code 200, body hello from Lambda.
Failed.
So,
Why do we get
Test
failed?
event, did you click format, save changes, or test? You got to slow down just a hair, please. Just a hair. It's a Friday.
okay, so this deploy was before when I made the change, right? This is my Lambda function. I added this variable, and then I returned the variable here, right? After that, I deployed it because I made a change. I added something, so I deployed it. It shows changes deployed. Then I click on test and create a test event, gave it a name and saved it. And once it's saved, I click on test and it executes the Lambda function. So basically this test is the equivalent to an invocation from another service. It's basically the same thing. You're testing it, right? So now that you test it, it shows the response body here. When it says name trainer, status code 200, body this, right? You can make some more changes if you want to. You can say, what else can we say here? Maybe my age, right? Maybe say 45, right? And maybe we can have a string if you want to, or maybe a float, right? My grade, right? 90.5. And maybe you can have a Boolean value if you want to. You can say is a student, and that will be true, right? So this is Python, don't forget. Now in the handler here, I can return my age. So I can say my age or age, right? And here I can say my age, right? I can return my grade, right? And say my grade, right? And I can return student or not, right? And I can say is a student, right? Mm-hmm. Right? I can also print something here. I can say print, right? This is a cool Lambda function, right? It's just a string, right? Okay. So now that I have made new changes, right? What I have to do is deploy the Lambda function. I click deploy, changes deploy. I don't have to create a test event again because it's already created. What I have to do is test it, right? Now I test it, and this is what I get. Trainer, and here I can see this is a cool Lambda function. It's printed here, right? And I can see that name, age, grade, and student are not true, was not, or not, were returned here, right? So now what I have to do is basically integrate with this with another service and go ahead and invoke the function. But this function is not doing anything. It's just printing something here in the execution results section, right? It's not doing anything. It's not modifying anything in another service. It's not creating anything. It's not stopping, starting anything. It's not doing anything. It's just printing something here. So this is just a test Lambda function, right? A demo, one probably sample Lambda function, nothing else. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine this with an EC2 instance. What we're going to do is create a few instances, and we're going to stop them with a cron job. So that's going to be a Lambda function that does something really, really useful, right? This one is just for you guys to understand what a Lambda function can do and how to create one. As we can see here, the duration of this execution was 6.05 milliseconds. Okay, remember that the maximum execution time of this Lambda function is 3 seconds, so we have more than enough to run this particular code here. So this will run in 6.5 milliseconds. Okay, now if we have a Lambda function that contains many more lines of code, and that will consume more than 3 seconds, your Lambda function will time out because it doesn't have enough time to execute. So what we can do is come here to the configuration and extend the time of the execution and maybe put it at 1 minute or probably 2 minutes or maybe 5 minutes. And then the Lambda function will be able to execute the code. Okay, so this is the longest it can get to because this is my default setup. I can change this and change it to up to 50 minutes, right? So you guys clear about how Lambda function works somehow, right?
Can you click on the
Context.
execution results, sir?
Execution result is right there.
I mean, can you click on the, oh, is that right there?
Yeah.
Why am I having you want me to share my screen?
Please.
Probably we have syntax error.
That's why Python is important. You know, we're gonna still see Python. The code that we're gonna use to stop the instance is gonna be Python.
It's kind of
My name, no, go back to your Lambda function. Line 2, my name should be equal. My name, you have a dash over there. Change it to equal.
Where's the dash? I don't see the
it's
dash.
not a dash.
It's not a dash. Looks like a
Yeah.
dash.
It's equal.
Okay.
Okay, did you deploy the changes, please? Changes not deployed. Please click on deploy. Click on deploy. Now test it. So now you have an error. Okay, what's the error?
Line
Name
8.
key is not defined.
Line 8.
Name key is not defined. Can you go back to the Lambda function, please?
We have to put my name
Okay,
instead of
my friend,
Kenny.
you have to put the variable, not a hard-coded value. So instead of Kenny, you have to put my name.
Oh yeah,
Kenny's,
yeah.
Kenny's not a, Kenny's,
Yeah.
Remember, this is
Okay.
Python, guys.
Yeah, I got it.
So put my name. No. And then deploy it. Deploy first. Test it. There you go.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Professor, one question. Like
Yes, Priyanka,
the response value has to be JSON, or we can just return anything we want?
you can write anything you want. But in this example, they are just writing JSON.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Professor, I got an error for the runtime. Should I
You get
change
an
it?
error? Okay, please change the screen.
Okay, so that's the error I get.
It says invalid syntax. So can you go back? You forgot a comma after is a student.
Of course.
Okay. Try now, deploy it, test it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay,
So
thanks.
you forget a little punctuation thing,
Details.
and then you have a problem.
Okay, thank
Right.
you.
Anyone else?
Can you also show once more, where did you set the runtime?
Huh?
Like you set the running time for Lambda function, like you
Oh,
remember?
the execution time?
Yeah, execution time.
Yeah, you change that in the configurations tab, right? So here you see the execution timeout. It's right now 3 seconds. You can edit it and change it, extend it if you want to, right? Extend it here.
And so it shouldn't be more than 15 minutes.
Correct. That's the maximum execution time. So if you have a bunch of code there that will take more than 15 minutes, then don't use Lambda because it's gonna time out. Okay. Right.
So, but how do you know if your code is gonna be more than 15 minutes?
Well, test it. Test it. How can you know that? How can you measure that in time? Test it and see what happens, right? Sometimes you have an error and it would take a long time to load, right? If that error takes more than the time that you set here, it's gonna time out, right? So you have to either fix the error or extend the time to be able to see what the problem is. Because if the function times out before it outputs the error message, you would never be able to see what's going on. Remember, when you have an error, it will throw an exception or show you what the error is, right? But if it's taking a long time and this one errors out before, you would never be able to see what the code problem is, right? So you have to extend the timeout so it just finishes executing and it will show you the problem, right? So you would need to extend the time, right? Okay, so key takeaways here. Lambda is invoked, and that's what we did here when we tested. This is the invocation right here. This is equivalent to an invocation, right? The maximum time is 50 minutes, right? We can test it. We can monitor Lambda function. We can configure it, right? We can change the memory that is allocated for the Lambda function. We can change the timeout, right? We can do all the changes here. You can connect this to a PVC. So many things that you can do here, right? You create aliases, versions, right? All the actions that you can do here. You can publish a new version, create alias, export function, deploy to a Lambda Edge. Lambda Edge works at the global level. It works with CloudFront as well, right? To execute Lambda functions at the global level, or you can simply delete the function here. So there's different ways to delete the function. You can go back to the functions here. This will show you the functions that you have created, right? You don't see it, but in the background, the code is zipped, but you don't see it, right? Whenever you upload code to Lambda function, it has to be zipped. It cannot be just a file, just like that. I want to do a file. You have to upload a zip file, right? You can click here, and under action, you can delete the function here. Now, how do I upload the function? Basically here it says upload from. You can upload it using a zip file or from an Amazon S3 location. So you can have your code in an Amazon S3 bucket and pull it from there, and Lambda will take care of the rest, right?
Professor, yeah, what go down a little. What does it mean by the dumps? I mean, like the JSON.dumps, the dumps.
Is to be able to bring this text to this return statement. Remember that dumps deals with strings. This is a string, right? So what it does is basically print this from JSON. So if we test it, we see here body, and we have this in the format of a string. Okay, you could have said here, instead of, it's just a test. I mean, You can simply say something like body this, right? So I deploy the change and I get this, right? But it's just using the JSON module, right? Right here. So I can put it back to what it was. It's just an example, right? Remember, this converts strings into JSON, right? Okay. Okay, so I think that we're ready to stop an instance, right? Right. Right. Okay. This converts this into a string, right? It's a Python object, and it converts it into a string. That's what it does, right? Remember that everything in Python is an object, right? So this is an object here, and it converts into a string. That's what dumps does. Right. Now, let us go ahead and first of all,